this group? Have you heard of them? All right, it is 2:30 and we are here for a discussion with the Bonner County Fair Board. Who wants to open up and be the opening speaker?
I could do that.
All right.
What would you like?
Do you want us to just say what we're interested in understanding, or do you guys want to talk to us about the budget? How would you like to feel the most comfortable about our conversation?
I could go ahead and talk to you about the budget,
Okay.
and about what we're wanting to do as far as the funds and stuff that we have.
And
I'm sorry. My name's Tim Mahan. I'm on the Bonner County Fair Board.
And so can you also, one of the things that this board has wanted that I think the board needs clarification on, and each board member can chime in to make sure we're hitting those, is there's a request to understand regarding the $5,000 a month payment that's being paid to the treasurer to review, because there were concerns across this board on the dollar amount of that payment versus what services were being rendered. And at that conversation, the board had explained that there was a bookkeeper that was going to be working on the ambulance district that wasn't that high, and we had some questions of you guys on that. We need to understand some decisions we've heard about in terms of the pumping station and the water, and then kind of overall repairs. So if we could kind of get a summary of what's been going on, because I think we've tried to give a little bit of breathing room from the board, because there's been some struggles on past county boards to yours, so.
So you would like to address those things first instead of
However you'd like
the
to do
budget
it.
issues, the budget items that we're going to be looking at, the money that we have and that, and we
No.
can address those items. That's not a problem.
No, just however you'd like to. I was just saying those were questions within the budget that we had some questions about.
Right. Let's start with what we'd like to do with the budget. We started out with like $210,000 in the B budget, and right now we've used that for capital improvements. Right now we have about $75,000 left in the B budget. We'd like to roll that $70,000, I guess, over into the C budget and for capital improvements. We already have some earmarks for that. That money, and that would be $35,000 towards the swine barn, which is just a partial. That's just a partial payment. We'd be using enterprise funds, and we're also getting a really outstanding response from the community as far as cash and work and donating expertise and things to get that done. So
You've got $75,000 left?
we have $70,000.
$70,000?
Yeah.
And so when you say, can you explain what you mean when you say to do on the swine? What is the project, and what's your estimated cost for that?
I'm gonna let Quentin
Okay.
explain that better.
Quentin Duncan, swine, Fair Board. Swine wash rack project, we've been doing, got a set of plans drawn up and engineered to do an addition to the swine barn to remove the existing wash racks, because they're falling apart and they're becoming dangerous for the kids during the fair. So we're designing this project. Some of the money he's talking about rolling over and splitting, because we can't get that project started before fair. We just don't have enough time. And once that project starts, it has to be finished. Because if we start it before fair, there would be nowhere for kids to wash their animals during the fair. So with that, I'm still waiting on a couple quotes of donation for the foundation and slab, and for the excavation work. Most of that's going to be donated, so they're not going to have a whole lot of cost out of that. But we'll definitely have costs in a lot of materials and some of the professionalism of the install. So the project here, we haven't got this to you guys yet, I don't think. I've got a set of plans for it if you guys would like to take a look at it. Just to improve the side, would you guys like to see that?
Yeah.
It'd be a 12 by 130 addition to the swine barn on the south side. So that way we can have approximately 28 new stalls for the kids to wash pigs, and then an area for the sheep and goats. That's all I have on that right now.
What's the estimated cost for what would have to be paid for on it?
That's what I'm still at. Like I said, they haven't got back to me on their couple of quotes on it, so it's kind of, I wished I had harder numbers for you today, but they didn't get back to me on.
Do you have an estimate on what you think it would cost to do what you're trying to do?
Ballpark estimate, probably about 65,000 to 70,000 roughly.
It's a pretty simple addition as far as the addition goes. Sorry. Ben Wood, Fair Board. So the swine wash rack is a pretty simple addition as far as like the construction project goes, but it is gonna all be concrete. That, concrete alone can be, $6 a square foot. So, and then as far as also we got paneling, and a lot of that stuff is pretty purpose built. So it's hard to get like a exact, you can go down to your local North 40 and kind of ballpark it, but like some of it just doesn't work. We're going to have to kind of think that stuff through. So that's the hard part. That's the tough part, to get like those exact estimates on. And then also, there's been talk a little bit about multi-use and being able to, if we're going to use the swine rack permanently as a swine rack, wash rack, or if we're going to, do something a little different there. So that also adds a level of, custom to it, which is also expensive. So, what's taking a while on that, getting all those numbers, there's just, while the building itself is straightforward, the wash rack itself is not, and all the plumbing, and it's more than just a lean-to.
I understand that. Thank you for explaining that. I think what I'm saying is not necessarily a concrete, this is the final number, but estimated cost of the building, estimated cost of the concrete if we have to pay to do it versus if we don't get it donated. That way we know what the project estimated cost is, knowing that there's going to be give or take of which direction. And when you say that, whether or not to use it as a permanent all the time swine wash rack or something else, to know that going into it before we build it and kind of pigeonhole a potential build into one thing versus a multi-purpose thing. That's kind of what my thought is I can appreciate the 65 to 75, but I'm still wanting to say 30,000 is, estimated high and low for these kinds of things in terms of doing a project plan. Is that where
as we get that information, as those quotes come in and everything, we can relay that information to you as it gets more solid for us. But right now, the estimate that Quentin gives you is probably our best guess at this point as total cost.
Kind of a high-level question. When it comes to prioritization of facilities, where does this fit on the priority list, and what are other high-priority items when it comes to facilities, repair, maintenance, things of that nature?
We have it's pretty high up, this one is, because it is a safety issue with the kids and with the animals. So that's, we're doing I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the term I want, but a strategic plan, thank you. We're doing a strategic plan, and the strategic plan starts with safety issues first. And we're looking at addressing those things first. This is one thing that we can address that is a safety issue. There's other ones that I might talk about here too, when it comes to fire hydrants and those kind of things. And that's where our strategic plan is starting, is with those safety issues, those things that are the most critical to get fixed.
Do you have a list of the critical items? Because I think it's really good that you guys are starting to work on the strategic plan. But Can I ask, Elisa, can I ask you to copy this, please? Do you have a list of, for example, like your top 5 critical items that you've identified in the strategic plan? Because I think a question that I would have is, before we start saying we're going to earmark money for one of them, have we identified where in the critical
Right.
hierarchy
Sure.
is this one compared to another one?
Sure.
Because the funding isn't unlimited. And I think that as you uncover things, it can be tempting to start working on one. But if there's not an endless amount of.
That's understood. I understand what you're asking for. I do understand what you're asking for and what you would like. And we looked at that, and that wash rack needs to be replaced. There's another issue.
Your items that you'd call critical.
Another one is, that's 35,000 of that, we're planning on use as that money, that 70,000 is rolled over from the B to the C budget. 55,000 will be for building improvements, which one of them is the 35,000 for the wash rack. 20,000 for the main exhibit building entryway, the entrance to the fair office, and the MOB on the west side is not safe, and it's not level and needs to be repaired. The doors themselves you can jerk on all the doors and they just come right open. It's a safety and a security issue that needs to be addressed. And we're going to allocate 12,000 towards that. And then 15,000 for land improvements. This is the perimeter, parking lot drainage, and foundation repair for that. Plans to focus on addressing the parking lot, which is, if you've been out there when there's any kind of weather at all, it's definitely a safety issue, but it's really inconvenient if you're not wearing your wetsuit to get to the main exhibit building.
And you're saying 15 for that lot is what?
Yeah, that won't take care of the project. That's just to get started. I mean, that's a multi-$1,000, it's a huge project, but we've got to start with the drainage. We've got to start, and that's what we would use that earmark, that 15,000 for, is to get started on that.
So in past meetings with your board, I thought something was brought up about one of your barns, one of your pool buildings, the posts were rotting and failing. Is that true? I don't know which barn it was, but I recall something was rotting.
Yeah, I think that what you were referring to might be some of the posts that were in the outdoor arena. There was.
The barns are all okay?
I wouldn't say that, no. I wouldn't say they're all okay. We do have issues, leaks and things like that, a floor in the main exhibit building, leaks in the roof. But at this point, they're in the strategic plan. They're not a safety issue, and they're a problem that is going to take a lot of funds to fix and to address. So.
Okay. So maybe I just misunderstood, because I thought I heard something about one of the barns, the posts were rotting, whole building, and it was, I don't know if it was in concrete or just put into the ground or what, but.
Yeah,
The swine wash rack is in that stage right now. That's part of the reason for it. It is, the posts for it are rotting. Half of it's under cover, half of it's not. The half that's not, we're gonna have to do some more investigation on it. We might not even be able to use it this year, be it for safety issues. But yeah, the part that's under is in a little bit better shape, but those posts are rotting away, and
Okay.
that's the last thing we want to have, is for a building to collapse on top of pigs and kids
I
during
have
the
an
fair.
issue on saying safety concern on the swine wash rack, but still using it for this season of a fair in terms of insurance and liability. So I know I'm calling you on the spot since you're here, but have you gone to look at this safety concern that they're saying? Because when we have an issue, if we're going to say it's a safety thing, and the comments have been made in this meeting about safety to kids, and we cannot repair it by this fair, why would we be using that if if we've recognized it as a safety issue? And is there an opportunity for RIS to take a look, because the county buys the insurance for the fair,
I'll take a
correct?
look, I haven't heard about it, so I'll take a look.
So you have not been contacted about the safety issue of the swine wash rack? Can you work with the fair to take a look at that? Because there has to be a decision if there is a true safety thing that they could get injured on, and then we have to make that review by risk.
So Mark, I can email you and we'll set that.
Quick point of clarification, the strategic plan document, was yours double-sided?
No,
No,
that's why we're
we're missing
lost.
half the page.
Can you redo it?
So, and I can move.
Handed it back to
I can move on here if you want to. And we're coming to the point now where we're going to request $60,000 to be funded to the C budget for fiscal year 2026. And we have that money earmarked if we were to get that money. And we understand if we can't, but you won't know our needs if we don't express them. And this budget process is our way of communicating to you what we need. And so we're requesting $60,000 to be funded to the C budget for fiscal year 26, 10,000 to 9370 cap. It's for miscellaneous building and land repairs. We're always having to do repairs on the facilities there. Whether it's hinges on a door, or whether it's replacing a door, or if it's or toilets or sinks or any of those things that come up. But again, I don't know that $10,000 is going to cover all the issues. We do use enterprise funds for some of those things too. $30,000 for the land. This $30,000 is broke down into $20,000 for the hydrants and repair and replacement of the fire hydrants. Those fire hydrants are the things that are necessary to protect the county buildings that are there from fire. Right now, there's half of them, I don't think, they're in, Mark, do you know what the?
Mark Knapp, Fair Manager, from what I understand, all of them need to be replaced. 2 are not usable at all, and the other 2 are leaking where they, if you will, the guts can't be just fixed, if that's the best way to say it. And just to follow up on that from the initial budget workshop I did with you guys, I did meet with the city public works director that following week right after that meeting and took plans down there to show her everything and communicated with the fire department as well, and I have not heard back from her. If you'd like to know what was discussed just verbally, I can tell you, but I think at this point, with not hearing back and asking for a response and not getting it, no fault to her, I'm sure she's busy, but I try to get your questions answered, but don't have answers on those.
Thank you for doing that.
And then $10,000 would be used for perimeter parking lot drainage, foundation repairs, and parking lot focusing again, throwing that with the $15,000 that we have. We would like to roll over from the B budget to the C budget to make more improvements and to begin that process of getting a parking lot safe and usable for the folks that come to the fair and use the fairgrounds. And then we have $20,000 for the repair of the doors at the MEB. Cost of replacing all of them is over $30,000. The security as well as energy efficiency. I explained earlier how the doors are not working and
In the main exhibit building?
in the main exhibit building, yeah. And that we're losing a lot of heat and through those doors because they're 30 years old and they just need replaced. And it's kind of, we're earmarking $20,000 from that $60,000 and the cost to replace them is over $30,000. So we're willing to throw money into this ourselves with enterprise funds. We just, it looks like we've got a pile of money sitting there in the enterprise funds, but by the time we get done with the fair and the rodeo, and this summer, when it comes to the end of the year and we get done writing all the checks, we're going to have between $10,000 and $15,000 left in our enterprise funds, and now we have to start building that up again to for seed money and that for the next year. And that all comes from sponsors, and a fraction of it might come from renting the facilities, but a lot of that just goes to maintenance and repairs and cleaning and stuff like that to keep the facility in shape enough to be used.
Page 2, item 6.
So that's basically, the other thing we're asking for is another position. I understand that we may not get that, but we're asking for a, let me get the exact terminology for you. We're requesting a new position, which is for a program coordinator. It's to manage the sponsorship program. The sponsorship program is a huge, huge part of our income for the fairgrounds. And I think that this position eventually would pay for itself in just focusing on sponsorship, on the sponsorship program. And currently we have an event coordinator who coordinates all the events that happen at the fairgrounds. And like this last year, after fair and for this fiscal year, the MEB is rented out every weekend. There's something going on there up until like that, up until this summer, when we can go back outside and do things outside.
Which building is this?
The main exhibit building, we call it the MEB, but
Okay.
yeah, it's the main building is always rented out. The Holly Barn is rented out and the indoor arena is rented out, and the beef barn is rented out. So we have that income coming in, but honestly, we'll not be able to rent ourselves out of the problems that we have out there with maintaining the buildings and bringing the buildings back up to where they need to be. So we have that event coordinator who is coordinating all those events and has to interface with all the folks that sponsor those events to the fairgrounds. This new position would not only cover the sponsorship program, but they would be working on grants to bring grant money into the fairgrounds, and hopefully bringing grants to you, because you would have to approve those grants, bringing those grants to you for you to look at and approve. And so that position would be used for that also. Mark, was there any other thing that you saw with that program coordinator position?
I would just say that the grant piece is more just research piece, because to have someone who could research, write, and manage, that would be a position all in of itself, because depending on how big of a project you get and how much money you get, it's not like it's not like grants were 50 years ago, right? So it's more of a grant research person that can maybe try to find other funds through grants, but focusing on the sponsorship program, I'd say 90-10, if that's an easier way to, like in their duties, 90-10, 90% being sponsorship related and driven.
So you already have an events coordinator, is that correct? Yes. And
Yes, we have an events
the
coordinator.
position would be, sounds like basically just looking for money.
I would tell you the events coordinator position probably does 2.5 to 2.8 FTE worth of work, and is a grade 8. So it's a matter of time and burnout, and not really about what you can pay anybody for that position to do what the demand is. So I don't think asking from my position is in the best interest for any taxpayer to ask for more positions if you don't need it. It's needed. That's just from my seat.
When you look at, Mark, when you look at the comment about a grant researcher versus the person that would actually write, what benefit do you see of having a grant researcher that doesn't actually write the grants? Or are you feeling like you just want someone to research grants and then you guys, because usually it's all the same person. And part of the reason they are in the same person is because the grant researcher writer would typically have the access to do that for you. And the templates that exist within grant writing and understanding where to do the research comes from actually being a grant writer, grant consultant, not just a, so I'm trying to understand in terms of the grant piece of, would you rather put more into the one that you, the events coordinator versus a grant researcher? Because if you're not going to have the person able to write it, I'm trying to extract the value for doing research of grants you can't write for.
Well, I've heard different things from different members of the board in regards to that grant piece. I would tell you that the job itself, I was asked to have someone to look into doing grant research as a part of asking for that job because, and I've heard that maybe that's something not to do because maybe that's something that the county should have as a grant person writing grants. I think that the main focus of that job needs to be on sponsorship and sponsorship driven, right? And tapping into the sponsorships and the possible sponsors that we don't know of and we don't have yet in the county, in the region, I would say, because right now that's opened up. We found that out this year that not just Bonner County wants to support us, right? Well,
I guess I just want to focus on where you
so to
get
answer
the
your,
value.
yeah, so the value I think is in the sponsorships because I don't know how much grants are really available for us outside of Parks and Recs grants that we all know about. I think when it comes to answer your question about the writing part, we have some great resources and fellow employees here that could assist me and somebody in writing those and doing that. It's just, you don't know what you got if someone's not looking, and I do look, but if that could be 10% of somebody's job and we can possibly get something, it might be 50,000, it could be 500,000, I don't know, but we don't have anybody looking. So if that's something that you guys would want in a job description, then I think it would be okay to have that as a small section of their job. But if it's something that you don't really recommend, then I would say that the sponsorship part of it would easily be 100%.
I was just asking because you specifically said more of research, not the person to actually write. And so
Correct. I would think that if that was the case and maybe they weren't a writer, if someone had that experience, then it would be up to me to start writing it and learning how to do that and tapping into the resources we have in the county with good grant writers that we already have. That's my thoughts.
And that's pretty much it for the money end of it. And you wanted to address the treasurer position. 2026 is going to be year one for us when it comes to managing properly the funds and things that we have. This treasurer that we have has brought us to this point. And maybe that'll change in the future where we won't need as much from a treasurer as we do right now. But we finally have a year, 2025, when we have good information. And this is good information that she's been developed as far as finances. We want to be open. We want to be transparent. We want to be responsible with the money that the good folks of Bonner County sponsor to us. And right now, this is a great use for that. I know that you could probably get a cheaper bookkeeper, but she's not just a bookkeeper. She's a treasurer that we appointed as dictated by statute and checked on by legal that has said this is what we need to do. We've done some comparison shopping with all of her duties. her scope of work, and we've gotten back from a couple other firms, and honestly, they came back with a higher price than what we're paying her. So, for the duties that she has.
So, Tim, can we go back to when the prior board approved the contract? So there was a rate of pay in that contract that was approved.
Yes.
And so the board, the Fair Board, did not come back to the Board of County Commissioners with a change of price, nor did the Board of County Commissioners address the job that the position was changed into. And so this is not a question from me as to the quality of work by the individual. It is only what you're paying, what was approved, and what's available in terms of what statutorily the county recognized as a need for the Fair Board.
Right.
And so the very specific, not counting anything else that the Fair Board wants the person to do, the value of that was identified. And so when we found out about the rate change, to include that you said you were having the person do other things, but those were not other things that the Board of County Commissioners approved, nor were they statutorily required to do that. When that changed, the question was brought forward with another bookkeeper, especially when you added in the background, the number of entries that you're seeing of what that rate was. And so it was a difference of, I want to say $12.50 a month with a person that was actually, isn't that what, Clerk Roselle, isn't that what the bookkeeper for ambulance district is charging, is $12.50? $1,200 flat. And they're doing more than what the Fair Board needs. And so when we found out about it, I brought forward that information and I said, look, $1,200 versus $5,000 is a big difference, especially when we're saying we have a list of things that we need to do repairs on. And so the question was the cost, because the board didn't change, and legal didn't approve the contract. And then we compared other things when we looked at this a couple months ago, based on also not just in the entries, but what is the background, what is the designations of the person, and what's the required work that is supposed to be done. And it's not a question of has she helped out a lot for the fair. It's $5,000 a month is what you're paying. And that I'm not hearing the answer to, because it isn't enough. We have to work within the confines of our budget. And when I look at I did a little peekaboo on some journal entries, and when I look at the cost per entry, I'm not seeing the $5,000. I know that the fair has asked for another staff member to help do some of the things, and if I recall, in our last meeting, you said eventually some of the tasks that you guys as a board have outsourced to the treasurer will be done by an employee. You were just not ready to do that yet. And I had at that time said, but you weren't given another FTE for another employee. You were given a treasurer, and essentially you're pulling money away from the county's ability to help with an FTE for the fair because you're diverting it without having gone through the channel. And so I'm hearing that you have a need for another person. And if I use what you said at your last meeting, it was eventually you'll pull some of those things that you're having your treasurer do, but that wasn't what the original contract was. And I can't get away from, if I can sit here right now and say, I've got a certified person that's charging the ambulance district $1,200 a month and they're doing payroll, how do I go from cost benefit, not the person, $1,200 to $5,000 with less entries than that would have?
Right now for the fairgrounds and where we've come from and where we're heading, I think the cost benefits are there. This is something that we need, what she does. Not talking about her, talking about
The position.
The position.
Yeah.
And when we did these, what we voted on was pay increases.
But you changed the job too, though.
Right.
And so wouldn't that same job, so as the fair manager says you need a person to focus on sponsorship,
Well-
wouldn't $3,000 a month be a good use to, even if it's to the person who's doing the 2.5 position of the job he currently has? But you can't just shift and say, you guys gave us the I want to say the original contract for her was like $1,200 something, and you guys bumped it up a couple times
Yeah.
without coming back to us. But you guys consistently did that, and then you got a huge jump into $5,000 a month. But it isn't about the person, it's about the job that is needed for the fair and what was approved by the Board of Commissioners, which wasn't what you've changed it into. And the contract wasn't reviewed by Bill Wilson, because he emailed you guys that as well. He reviewed a contract that the prior board approved, and you guys have altered that and created a new employee, which the Board of Commissioners does that. And in order to make it right for the fair board and the staff of the fair, if money is pulled off of your budget that doesn't allow us to account for what you're asking us to do, some of it is kind of tied up in that. How do you recommend doing that in terms of you're wanting another FTE at the fair?
Right. Well, I will say that our treasurer is paid for with enterprise funds, that we're not using the county funds. And I understand that you think that you're thinking that we need to be responsible with our enterprise funds. And if we're not responsible with those, how can we be responsible with the funds that the county might provide for us? Well, I understand that. But I do also understand that right now, this position and the work that is being done by this position is worth the money that we're spending on it.
If I showed you, which we did, the rate of that position that we're currently paying for the ambulance district is $1,200 a month. And I will tell you, from sitting on this side and as a Bonner County resident, people hear when we say it's out of the enterprise, so it doesn't matter. That's not how they see it. They
That's
see it
not,
as,
no, I don't say it doesn't matter because it comes out of the enterprise fund. It matters a bunch
and
that
so,
it comes out of the
fine,
enterprise
it
fund.
comes out of that fund that the board isn't over. But in terms of how we look at creating the fair to be a sustainable growth, if it's worth $1,200 and the county showed you the service is $1,200 and we're paying for someone to do more, do you owe, not talking about a person, do you owe it to say, well, if we can get it for less and it's quality work and they're doing more at that rate, do you owe it? And I'm asking you to look at it from this perspective, not talking about anything other than I can show you the rate is substantially lower. How do we not reasonably address the fact that you're saying pay a lot more than what we're showing it's worth? Because the person did say if you're not wanting to go back, that same person said they can do the fair at $1,200 a month.
Okay, I'm wondering how you're getting quotes at $1,200 a month when we actually have gone to businesses that do this work, and both of the ones we've gone to, they're telling us the work that we're requiring would cost us more if we use them than what we're presently paying. Now, I know in the future that can change. Once we are on track completely, like I said, 2026 is year one. And we finally have information that we can use to build on from fiscal year 2025. And it's taken us 3 years or better to get to this point. I'm not sure how you say, oh, $1,200, but these other outfits are telling us it's more than what we're paying. I guess there's a discrepancy, and you're talking about a bookkeeper, we're talking about a treasurer. Is there a difference?
No, you guys have added to a job description that the board didn't approve that exceeded beyond the treasurer. That is part of what a difference could be. In terms of what function the Board of County Commissioners by statute put in place, that is the function that the person quoted $1,200. And so you in our last meeting commented that you had given more tasks to the treasurer because you weren't ready to transition those things to staff members of the fair, but that eventually you would make those transitions. And at that time, I also said, you essentially are creating another position, and the Board of County Commissioners is supposed to do that, not the fair board, but that you guys got a treasurer by way of a contract that was reviewed by legal and signed off by the Board of Commissioners, and the prosecutor. And so I'm not disagreeing that, because I asked for a few months to see the difference of the job description that you guys said that you were evolving, because that was the other issue, was you guys changed the rate of pay, but you didn't actually show any different job description. So you guys were working on the job description, and you've sent this is what we're working on in terms of job description. But again, I do find that to be concerning, that someone's pay changes, but you didn't, a job description wasn't
I
changed.
understand if you haven't seen that. Everything we've done, the pay increases have been reviewed by legal. We right now, I believe right now, legal is reviewing the contract. And I know that things haven't been done right in the past. And I realize that. And we're trying to remedy those things.
I understand that.
But
So if it's $1,200 a month from a licensed person who does those job functions, is the fair able to make that adjustment to decrease the budget, which would actually allow for us to look at the need of the staffing to have another person that focuses on sponsorship? Because I completely understand Mark's position on that. And I think that you do have the ability to freeze some stuff up.
yeah, did you want to?
So if it's
say
$1,200
anything about this?
and we can show that to you again, would you be agreeable to reducing that line item?
Not at this time. We can't just, I've said it before, we can't change horses in midstream at this point. We're finally getting ourselves on our feet and being responsible and accountable. Possibly in the future, if things are like that, but
How many entries do you have a month, average?
So here's where the problem is.
State
Oh,
your-
sorry, yes, Samantha Schmidt, treasurer. I think part of the problem is when you just take a number, okay, there's, 297 transactions a month. It's not that simple, because have these people been entered? Are these new vendors? I mean, a transaction could take, 45 seconds, or it could take 5 minutes. So to give a quote of $1,200, I think if someone were to come into the office and sit there for a week and go through all of the transactions and how they're done, what type of transactions they are, I just think it would be kind of scary to give a quote just based on transaction number.
So my question was, how many transactions in a month? So what's your average of transactions in a month?
I would say 297, I think, was the last one I looked at for last year.
So if, what was your number of transactions last month?
I don't know, I'd have to go look.
In the month before? Like in the last 6 months, any of that?
I wouldn't have any reason to necessarily go count my
No
number of
worries.
transactions.
If we were looking at a quote to see the cost, and we saw the average number of transactions, and there's a dollar amount per transaction, and someone gave, from a fiscal responsible kind of way, if someone says, yeah, I'm certified, I could do that, what's the reason that you wouldn't take a lower bid?
Well, again, I don't think that would be an accurate bid. I don't think that would be, I mean, someone's going to give you a bid, never stepping foot in your office, never opening up your books and seeing what they look like. I'm a bookkeeper and I have several clients, and I've said this before, I would never, ever give someone a quote
This
just
person did
based
not-
on
they did not
a
see
number
the-
of transactions.
They did not see the books on this particular person.
Okay, but have they been in the office? Do they understand how those transactions work?
The question is just on the rate that we're paying and the rate that we were quoted. There is a big disparaging difference on the two. And the rate that's being paid is not the rate that was approved by the Board of Commissioners. That's the question. And so you're saying you do about 290.
Well, that's over a year average. There's sub-months where that may be tripled. I mean, it depends. That's not, the Fairgrounds doesn't work like any other place. I mean, there's one week it may be, working on, invoicing for ranch sorting. Well, there's going to be, 50 entries that day.
Have any of the board members seen the number of entries? Anybody have an idea? No?
As far as the number of entries per on a monthly basis.
And I guess would ask you guys are also paying attention to that aspect of it. So when I look at what it's significantly different than what the board approved. That's been a question. So what do you see when you're looking at it?
I've had access to the books for 2 months. Stacy McBurr, Fair Board. Looking into what I see is, I think Samantha's trying to point out that the Fair Board bookkeeping is cyclical. Of course, you're going to have more expenses and income during fair and directly after. The 2 months that I've been on the board, I've seen between 50 and 70 transactions a month. A lot of those come from campground transactions. So the campground has a system for charging out, and it directly deposits into their account, and it's reconciled through QuickBooks. There's a lot of contracts that are uploaded directly into the system, into QuickBooks. I believe that was as per legal to have the actual contract on board, but that can be a pretty automated system. But experience in 2 months is this time of year right now, and I just looked at June's, so I have not seen transactions for that, but it was between 50 and 70.
Okay. On your fire hydrant, when you go on your list, why is that one that the estimated cost of 20? And I was just rough skimming it for the swine wash one. Is that something that we're gonna work on getting completed this year?
I guess that depends on whether we get the funds to do that or not. It's protecting the county buildings, and it's fire for fire. It's up to you whether it gets taken care of or not. We have to ask for the funds to do that. I don't know what else to say. That is definitely something that we'd love to have fixed, that needs to be fixed, but that's your decision whether you want that fixed or not, and whether we get the funds to do that or not.
On the parking lot, do you have a plan of like the stages of what, like this is what we need to work on this year for the parking lot, for what the goal is?
Well, we do know that we have to work on the drainage, that we have to get, and that's what I've said in here is basically working on the foundation, working on the drainage of the parking lot. That's what we need to work on first.
What is your plan for that? How are you going to address the drainage?
Well,
Ben Wood here. So I've been working with a couple contractors. In fact, it's been over a year ago, looked at it with Jason Top a little bit, and we had a little bit of an idea of what maybe it might take. More or less, it's in a hole. It's not so much that the drainage outside of it is it's not draining because of any other reason. It's in a hole. Because of the traffic and everything, it just needs to be built up with rock. And this is actually a really good place that we can use, if we have a little extra funding, even $5,000, a few loads of gravel goes a long ways. But it's more than that. I mean, in the aspect, you can't just buy a load of gravel and dump it out in a pile. I mean, we can smear it out. We got some equipment, but a little bit of that. But if we ended up having a big project, then you're talking about like graders and compaction and stuff like that. But to answer your question, the overall what it needs to be done is increase, and it's all across the board depending on the grade of where it's at right now. Anywhere from 18 inches of increase in height down to just needs 4 inches of topping. We have talked about taking out some of the grassy area. There's an entryway to the middle entryway into the parking lot. There's a road that takes off to the north there that goes over to the extension office, and it takes up a pretty significant chunk of real estate that we could incorporate all of that into the parking and then actually make another exit on the north entrance of the fairgrounds that would actually be a closer shot to the extension office, and then we would have a bigger parking lot. But we're getting into a lot bigger project
The other aspect, and we've kind of talked a little bit with the city on the drainage. The drainage goes out to Boyer Road and then it goes south, where if it would go north, it would be a lot closer shot and we could actually get a little deeper elevation or a little deeper ditch so that we could bring that water table down a little bit. There's a lot of parts to that entire project, but the parking lot that we currently have, a handful of loads of gravel would actually go a significant ways. And that's another thing, you know, when I was talking to Jason Top a little bit, and he was like, well, you know, it's not in my budget to haul you guys gravel. And okay, I get that. Of course, I was pretty new on the board. I didn't really understand how that works. I'm like, well, you guys have dump trucks, haul some gravel. But we would also we'd be interested in working with the county and with Road and Bridge on that. Like, even if we bought the gravel and if they had a backhaul or something, they were all coming back and going by a gravel pit somewhere, you know, like, hey, grab a couple loads of gravel and spread them out here on your way by. I mean, anything like that would be helpful, because generally, if you buy a load of gravel, it's going to cost you that much again in the trucking. And then, like I say, I mean, placement, compaction, all that stuff, you know, there's a lot more to it. If you're just patching a pothole, it's one thing, but when you're doing a major overhaul, but that's the nice thing about that is that that's a really good place where we can spend, you know, $5,000 a year for the next 10 years, and, you know, it'll add up. It'll make a significant difference. And so we're finally kind of getting comfortable on the board where we're like, all right, let's really kind of dive into this. So
you're looking at, what you're asking this board to do is to fund a $10,000 for parking drainage, and you're also asking us to move some of your C budget or your B budget to your C budget, and you want to spend about 15,000 of that on the parking. So it sounds like your plan is to spend about $25,000 on bringing gravel into that parking lot. Is that the plan?
It is.
Can you add whether or not that was reviewed by Road and Bridge, if that would help? Because I guess on this parking thing, in line with what Commissioner Corn is kind of asking, are there phases of a project that have actually been written down as to this is phase 1, phase 2? That way we're not just throwing gravel out there, but that there's something that we can follow, so that as the county goes through periods of, we hear things on this side of maybe there's a surplus of something somewhere. But I don't see that, like, even when I look at this, I think you guys did your action items at first, but $20,000 for the hydrants, I see that dollar amount. What's the staffing cost associated? What's the, you know, the estimated salary for that position? What are the phases of the parking lot, and what's the end goal? Is it going to include an expansion, or is it just drainage repair? And kind of similar to the swine barn has an actual engineering plan, but even when I go on the swine rack section, it doesn't sound like the way you guys just described it. You described it to me as, to the county, as there's a safety issue, but it just says this is the area where swine participants wash their pigs before the 4-H show and is in need of a major overhaul, but it doesn't say
Can I address that?
what is that major overhaul and why that should come before putting out a fire across the fair. I mean, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand, is how do we pick that one out of all of them on that list? So
Okay, so this is a working
you have
document.
to say your name.
Stacy McBrayer, Fair Board. Working document, and it is a draft. Okay, a draft being, it's on the agenda for tonight's meeting. Okay. In that meeting, on that line item, I would like to go through it with the board to gather some more information about specifics, like adding in on that swine walk project, more articulation. Okay. We started in May with a list of things that needed to be done. And I have gone through with a couple of the board members and Mark, and we have added the articulation, kind of fleshed it out a little bit more to say, okay, these are safety issues. We probably need to address these, putting those as a concern, okay? Looking at our budget, looking at our revenues and our expenses, and saying, how can we increase our net profit so that we can put more of our enterprise funds back into these projects? And we are still developing this. And it will, maybe in 2 weeks, after we've had this meeting tonight, I can get a finalized
Yeah.
digital copy to you that has more articulation. But we'd have to engage somebody to go through phases. And you know, that's not cheap. Now, we can start with Road and Bridge and see what their recommendation is. But to engage someone who will work with us is going to cost us money up front.
I think that part of what has to happen is open communication between these two boards to know what you're working on, because you're not allowing us to help you or to offer resources. I'll be honest, that's really what it feels like, because when I look at this list, there's opportunities for us to have positively help some of the things that you guys have had here, but it's a struggle to have the conversation. In part, you have 3 board members that come from different backgrounds. You've got somebody who focuses on planning. You're not using that person to help you build those phases that could potentially cost you nothing. We have an engineer in the county that we could potentially be saying, let one of the commissioners go and help with, how do we engineer a better parking lot? We asked him to engineer our parking lot, but there's no conversation to say, how do we reduce the cost so that we can put the money back into the fair to build up some of these dilapidated buildings? And that's whatever made it so that these 2 boards don't work together needs to stop, because we're not moving forward as a county with the fair. Because when I see these projects, I know the money part of it. I'm not gonna do phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 of a parking lot. I'm gonna say one of these 2 guys, they like between construction and management, but nobody's using us for that. And I would say, I would like you guys to reconsider not welcoming a commissioner to help with these projects, and these dollar amounts that you want from the county have to come with a little bit more, which I think you guys recognize, but we're not utilizing what the county can help with. I mean, if you look at what we're doing on budgets, we're deconstructing and rebuilding stuff with a board from people with different backgrounds. It makes no sense to me why, if I've got these items that are your top 7 action items, that why not allow people that, because we offered, let me help you make that strategic plan, even though we don't want to make that strategic plan. We had a meeting about that, because that's my background is business. We can make a strategic plan.
We had that meeting, but at that meeting, you said,
This is a
you said you wouldn't.
No, we were told that's not how that happened.
Now, look, you know,
So
the point is that what you're saying is good.
Let us help you with it.
I think that's great, and I want us to have a great working relationship, the 2 boards to have that great working relationship and everything. But
Then let's, instead of saying but, let's say this. I would like to help push this fire hydrant safety thing, because I hear from Mark that we're having some failure of communication between the city to get some answers back on what to do on the fire hydrant, because you guys have a list. So you're blocked on fire hydrant. Can you use help from a commissioner on getting an answer of what we need to do on fire hydrants?
Sure, yes.
Okay, so I'm willing to help on fire hydrants. And so I'll just say, Mark will be my point of contact after I go ask somebody about fire hydrant.
perfect.
I'm gonna ask one of the other 2 commissioners to work on, I think, on these structural things. I thought we put a board member here on your board that was in construction. Where is that person?
Nathan.
I know who he is.
Oh. Thought you were asking. You did ask, didn't you?
We've
I'm
used,
trying to say it diplomatically, so I will change it and say, is that an active participant? Because that's what this board selected. You're the chair. Is it a yes or a no? Do we need a different person to take that on? Because we picked him for construction because he said he would go out and take a look at these buildings and help do some of the things that you guys need help with. So
he has looked at like the floor in the main
got
exhibit
3
building.
people and everyone behind him
And-
that shook their head no. Is he a really active participant on
I'm
the board?
answering your question. He has looked at the floor in the main exhibit building. I'm not sure whether we want to talk about personnel in an open meeting or whether you want to do that in executive session.
I'm asking about looking at the construction buildings. That's all I'm asking. I'm not asking, has he been doing that aspect of being on the board?
No.
Okay. Is there someone on this board that could help with that until we address that issue?
So
Because they need help, so they've got the swine wash rack, which has a safety element, but their other items on this have to do with looking at these buildings and developing what should you have in a plan before you start asking for where to put the money, because I don't disagree that, I've talked to you, Ben, so I know you, I know that you looked at this and said we need to do work on it, but what some question might be, I see that hand, thank you. The question might be, do you have to do all of that swine rack, or are there safety issues that you can do with, if you're saying you only have that 70, and then look at where some of the other money could go to fix some of the other things that were identified as action items? I don't know that. And it sounds like you guys are in the process of working on that explanation in this. So would that be helpful to have? He was project management, he's handyman construction. Would one of these people be beneficial to help give input on that?
and I'll,
Are you auctioning us? I'm not quite sure what you're doing.
Hey, he's no longer available, so this is all you got. No, well, because we have to move forward, and they both have this as a skill.
and I think
So-
we're all agreeing that we want to work together and do a better job of that. I will tell you, as a landscape architect, I have designed numerous parking lots and roadways throughout my 25-year career. So if you would like me to assist with the planning of the parking lot improvements, that's something I am willing to assist with.
We will try to work that in. I think that'd be wonderful. I'm not sure how that would be, that interface would happen at this point, but,
I have an idea on that.
but that would be great.
After we
The
auction.
point is,
Well, here's-
what I think we've all been trying to do, and I'll speak for myself specifically, is not force ourselves upon the Fair Board.
at it and
And so it's been waiting
Input.
for
Like a-
coordination, communication
I-
requests. And so I'm putting it out there to say, I have this background, I can assist you. If you ask me to assist you, I will make myself
Okay.
available to assist you.
That sounds great, thank you.
So your lowest bidder goes back to Ron on main exhibit swine walks. Well, he
His area of
complained.
expertise.
Yeah, swine
right,
rack,
is
right there.
construction.
As a consultant, and I guess I'm gonna put myself on the staffing and marketing to look for budget stuff in terms of staffing, and then what can we do on marketing? But I would say that, in a way, you've seen, this is going to be kind of construction, this is going to be kind of planning, I'm going to be kind of business, and we're offering to be of assistance to the Fair
You know,
Board.
I think that's wonderful. Let me just say that when we had our last workshop, that we wanted a strategic plan. And we said, well, what should be on the strategic plan? And you said, that's yours. That's yours. And so I'm not accusing, when I'm saying this. I'm just saying, this is what happened. And I say, and right away I think, okay, so they don't want to help us.
No,
They
it's-
don't want to give us they don't want to give us an idea of what they want on the strategic plan. And then Ron told me what we should put on the strategic plan by accident.
It's a,
So
no, it's not, it wasn't by accident, it was because.
Yes, it was.
No, well, it wasn't by accident in that the board knows exactly what we want to see in a strategic plan, but because they're two different boards with two different statutes, we have some limitations. But at this point, for me, when it comes to you want to spend money, I want to know why every little penny wants to be spent.
Sure.
And I want to maximize every penny. And I'm upfront and honest, I've emailed both you and Mark. I don't like the $5,000 payment when I can find it in a different way. I want to maximize how we put the money back in. From a community aspect, we have to address, when people attend the meetings, there's a response of enterprise risk fund isn't just to do the things that it comes across unintentionally as a way around the Board of Commissioners versus we have two buckets of money to spend and we need to spend them both responsibly. Not, this is one we're not in control of. I don't know, I'm not saying one is irresponsible and one's not responsible. I'm saying when I see a rate change that high, that's a big one. When I see there's needs of a list like this, I want to see the numbers and how we come up to the numbers with a plan that, on a parking lot, and I'm sure Commissioner Donkey will go over this when he works with you guys, but you can throw rock out there and then it basically be like nothing. And there needs to be a plan of why we're doing it and is rock the right thing. The comptroller has.
Jessica Stephanie for the record. So I think there's a little bit of breakdown in the way that we have worked with the Fair Board on the budget in the past. And while, yes, you have two funding sources, one is revenue that you have generated and one is county tax dollars that supplement the fair. But I think moving forward, and we may not be able to pull it off this year, but next year, for sure, I would really like to see us work together to provide a comprehensive budget. So it will be a total budget, which includes the enterprise funds and the tax dollars. So your total expenses, what the Fair Board needs to run the fair and events, and then what you have to contribute from the enterprise revenue. The difference in those two things is what the county is looking to pony up, right, from tax dollars to help supplement the operations at the fairgrounds. So I know you guys are gearing up for the fair, and it's going to be here in Nothing Flat. And then you guys have some reconciliation to do after that. But once that part is done, I would love to sit down with the Fair Board and Sam, well, she's part of the Fair Board, with everybody and kind of go over what that would look like for next year, so that when you guys come to this, you're showing, here's our personnel cost, here is the operational cost to run this. This is what we have to contribute. We're asking the county to fill the deficit, versus it kind of feels a little piecemeal now, which I think leads to some of the frustration. So if that sounds good to you guys, I would love to help with that.
With some consideration for, do we pull you all into as much of Munis as we can? That was also a discussion that you guys were gonna have.
Well, I can tell you that we can incorporate the fairgrounds into our financial system without it being a big deal. I know that there will be some little bumps in the road in the process as we figure that out, but you can stay segregated. It would be your own batch. You guys would do you would do the approvals, and then potentially the clerk's office would cut those checks. That being said, I do have a hard time with that $5,000 a month for bookkeeping, if I'm being honest. So even if the average is 300 transactions per month, we're paying $5,000 a month? I didn't even do that. Do that real quick. What's 5,000 divided by 300? Because I feel like it's a lot. So that's about $16 a transaction. So even if each transaction took 5 minutes, which it does not all of them, right, Sam? Some do, but most don't. So that if I just use that to base my calculation, you're paying Sam $300 an hour, over $300 an hour. So and I know that there are extenuating circumstances, and I know she's taking care of a few other things, but I do think you guys need to consider that, because when we're looking at the availability of enterprise funds to contribute to the overall cost, and you are spending $60,000 for the treasurer, that's a lot of money that could help offset some of these additional expenses. So it's totally up to the Fair Board. We don't necessarily get a say, but the commissioners do get a say on how much they're going to contribute to help offset the deficit that you guys are facing to run and operate.
And I'll say that's, go ahead, Commissioner.
I gotta say to you guys, we have other departments within the county that run off of enterprise funds, but they're 100% transparent. And when I say transparent, that doesn't mean that you're hiding something, but we can't see it. And when we can't see what's going on, my personal feeling is, I don't think we should give you a dime. And that is not on a personal level, that's on a business level, because I don't know what you guys are taking in, and I don't know where you're spending your money at, but yet you come to us because we have the deep pockets, supposedly, we don't, but everybody thinks we do, that, hey, 60 grand for the fairgrounds out of the county budget is just a drop in the bucket, because they got $80 million to play with, right? That's not the case. We're cutting our budgets. Our budgets was cut 3%, I think, this year for the commissioner's office itself. so that we're trying to free up money so that we can put it in the places that we really need it. I speak for myself, but I have a hard time giving anybody any money when I can't see what's going on within the organization. So if you guys want to keep your entity to yourself and not share it with the rest of us, but only come at budget time and walk up here with your handout, I got a problem with that, and I just want to lay that out on the table. If you guys want to get into Munis and everything else, and Jessica has offered to help you guys, we're all offered to help you guys, working together. I don't know why we wouldn't want to know, why you would want us to see everything and see where the issues may or may not lie.
Would you like us to send our financials to you every month? I mean, we have, oh, you do send it to them. So every check, every check that we write is recorded and the board sees all that information. And if you'd like to have that information sent to you, we could do that. That's not a problem. It's public record and we can make sure you get all the same financials we get when we go to our monthly business meeting. We have other meetings too, but operational meetings, but our monthly business meeting, we get all of the financial. And if you would like that sent to you for transparency to you, that's totally available. I guess.
Yeah, it's available already. We
Yeah.
send it to the comptroller. It's there. If you want it specifically sent to you, we can have her send it directly to the Board of Commissioners rather than, because there's nothing, it's transparent. It just may not
And I'm
be
not
coming in your
claiming it's not.
box, but we get it to the comptroller.
It's just
every
really
transaction.
hard sitting up here, not knowing where you guys are spending your money, and I'm not gonna go out of my way to go research it or put a PRR in for it. I'm not gonna do that. Every other department, I don't have to do that. So it would be just helpful that if we were all on the same page, using the same tools, and being one family, basically, right? It's like, right now, it seems like there's still, and I don't know why, because Commissioner Domke and myself are new at this. I don't think we've attributed to any of the issues in the past with the Fair Board, but yet we're still getting repercussions, I feel. And I don't know how to break down those walls, and, I mean, we should be laughing and joking and carrying on and taking care of business, and like we do with most of the other departments, and getting business done, right? So I just had to say
I
that.
guess then in the future, we'll have those sent to you. We'll have to look at what you're talking about with Munis and everything.
Well, maybe
We'll just-
also just a line of communication, because in part, the way we get pulled into fair stuff is budget time, or members of the community are at a meeting and they hear things that they don't like and they bring to our attention, and then we have to address
So when you say line of communication, do you mean I need to call you, or you can call me? Or you can send me an email? I mean,
them. I
is that what?
send you emails,
is-
and for example, and I think that in part it's, nobody wants to micromanage anything. We're asking you to utilize the resources that the county already has, and in part, for everybody that works here, the taxpayers have already paid for us to exist. So let's maximize that before we start spending money. And so if I, for example, said to you, I would like to understand that $5,000 a month payment, there's a way in which I can proactively provide that information to the board instead of feeling like I have to keep saying, where are you with that response to me? Where are you with that report? I'm saying you can, and instead of being defensive, saying you're standing on your position that you're supportive of what you did. I'm standing on my position of I have a question, and we can have a respectful dialogue about it. But if a question gets asked, and I think when we had the workshop, you guys got a little bit in your feelings over people that got upset over the jacket thing. That has been when people brought up the point that money was being spent on jackets. And then there created irritation within the county, from the fair to members of the community. And it's not the fault, it's our job on both sides to ask the right questions and offer assistance. So maybe, I'm not saying call, but if you guys have something that comes up, for example, if the swine structure is failing and it's a safety concern, why not just email the board and say, hey, we're going to go out and get an engineering study on this because we think this needs to be repaired because there's a significant safety risk, just so you know, and we might not have all the money to fix it. That is a line of communication. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying it helps if we're trying to work on the same team. And then we would know when we got here that, wait, I could have gone and asked engineering to help look at a parking lot study if that's what you were working on. But you're not letting us help because you're not offering to us. And in part, you guys are here because this board says, hey, we need the whole board to come. And that's how it has been. But I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying you have the option of just saying, let me let you know.
I understand, and, and that's why I said, we've checked with the, other outfits on the cost of doing this treasurer's job, and they come back with a different quote than what you're quoting. I guess
Maybe you could email us those quotes that you're getting or
sure,
something. So we
no
can see 'em.
problem, yeah.
Like somebody said, we may not be looking at an apples to apples, or maybe different roles and
Well, I think
responsibilities
that's-
between
I
the
think that's it.
definition of the scope of work, which is why the quotes are coming in different. And that's part of that earlier breakdown about what was the position that was approved, and if that's changed, we have to figure out how we're going to address that.
Yeah.
I want to figure out, how would you like to communicate better in the future? We're still dealing with the aftermath of the decision to stop maintaining the playground and the dump station. And the fact that there wasn't a dialogue about that ahead of time created a lot of controversy and difficulty in the community, and we're still trying to recover from that.
Sure.
So those are very frustrating situations that could have been avoided with good communication. So I want to figure out how I don't want to dwell on that. I want to solve those problems and move forward, but as a part of the solution, how do we improve that communication? Because you guys do have the authority to make decisions about the maintenance of the fairgrounds. But if it's going to mean that something's not going to be maintained anymore, to not let the county know in advance for us to have time to transition, that's an irresponsible decision.
No, I believe that I mentioned that at our meeting, those are not ours. That we didn't, the Fair Board
There's
was
a
never,
long history associated with
The-
that.
the Fair
To
Board is-
decide that you're done without giving a transition opportunity for us to come up with a solution. Like, see what I'm saying? Like,
I do, but I guess,
say something exists and then make a decision in a moment.
I
and then say
guess,
it's coordinated.
I guess if I tell you something like that, I would expect you to think, well, that's what he said, maybe that's what he means. And now we have to
I think the way
now
you're
we need to
answering is part of, I think, the thing that I would like to change, because you're having a board say, let's work together collaborative, and you're saying, well, I told you I wasn't going to pay for it, but the county's response in, are you wanting the county to say, fine, we're not moving that $70,000 so that you can spend it how you want to spend, because now we've got to maintain the park that you guys were maintaining. We don't want to do that. Instead, let's just say, I hear you. I guess we could have communicated that differently, because you guys voted to say you're not doing things without saying, hey, let me let the Board of Commissioners know that this is what we're thinking, so that there's a plan in place, so that the community doesn't get told there's no bathroom and there's no water of the.
I understand.
And because it's not us that's getting the consequence, it's the community, and that's what we're both here working for.
I understand.
So if we can kind of squash it all and say, moving forward, we're going to have a discussion before a huge decision is made that's going to change how things have been happening, so that we each can say we have a plan to transition. I almost said it. To transition away from what we were. It's because of you that I have to think of my words.
No, I understand.
To transition.
I totally agree.
Transition
I totally agree.
to the spot that we collectively want to be in.
I see the flaw, and I totally agree.
Real briefly, so tonight you guys have your meeting, and you decide you're not gonna pay the water bill anymore.
No, we'll pay the water
I'm just
bill.
saying, you can't just send us an email tonight after your meeting and say we're not paying the water bill anymore. You need to say, hey, starting August 15th, we're not gonna be responsible for the water bill anymore.
We don't want to, don't give it. We need to huddle up. We don't like his statement. It's that we would like to say we would like to choose not to. So we can-
Well, I guess the point is that we've never paid the water bill in the first place, but you know what?
See what you- see what you-
Okay.
But we will pay the water bill.
I'm just
We,
saying.
we'll take the water bill, there's also a gas bill for the maintenance.
Specific down Bill Alley. He's being in general on.
I understand that, but I'm just saying that since the water bill thing came up, I would just let you know, we'll pay the water bill. Starting fiscal year 26, we'll pay the water bill. We'll pay the gas bill on the maintenance. There's two accounts out there. One goes to the extension office and one goes to the maintenance building. We'll pay that one to the maintenance building.
My point.
I understand your point,
If you
but
guys decide to start or stop a service, it would be nice to have a 30-day period or something, because, such as the park, we had at least a 30-day lull of no service, of which we start fielding phone calls and emails, because there's no bathroom, there's no, the water's not turned on for the grass to go, no one's mowing the grass, and it's like, well, and it takes time for us as government. We can't just go out and mow this weekend. We have to wait for a Tuesday meeting. The board has to approve to shift money over to Parks and Rec to do this. It takes time because government's not efficient.
okay,
So, I
understand.
would like a little heads up.
And I guess, my main point is, we all serve the same public. And so anytime one of us makes an adjustment to what we have been doing, right, it has a ripple effect impact. And so to coordinate that in advance so that we can try to make sure that if we're gonna make a change somehow, if it still needs to be addressed, there's a plan in place by another entity to address it. I just wanna be sure that we're not creating these ripple effect scenarios where it just has a negative impact on the community. And I went back and read those documents that were shared by members of the community, which I appreciate, of how and when it was originally adopted between the city and the county. And I agree that that original agreement in no way indicated who at the county, what county entity would maintain that playground park. It just said that the county was going to assume it. It didn't say who and how. And so I don't know how those decisions got made internally, ultimately, where it started off as being a responsibility of the fair. I'm not aware of that because it wasn't in the resolution that adopted that as county property. But the fact that there was a history of something occurring and then it changed, it's just the lack of communication piece in advance that created the issue. So it's not that there aren't things, history pieces that we don't need to figure out how to make better. But I don't want us to get hung up by the fact that there's negative history. I just want to figure out how we're going to do better in the future. So apologize for my frustration earlier. I would like to confirm on the action items. For the immediate action items, the 7 that are listed, are they listed in priority or are these just, not yet? Okay, so that's helpful information. And again, I just want to state that, I should say again, because I haven't said this yet today. The fact that you guys have produced this document, even though I know it's your rough draft and you're still working on it, is huge. It's a huge step in the right direction. And so getting this, as you're talking about, more fleshed out, more detailed, so we can better understand phasing and cost, when we can couple this, in my opinion, when we can couple this plan, phasing and cost, with the overall budget so that we can understand how things work together, this is something viable that we can work with to say, can we fund it and in what year can we fund it? Some of the departments, like Commissioner Corn was indicating, that have similar operating conditions other than having their own separate board. But they do have taxpayer levy funds and they have their own enterprise funds. In that situation, when we look at the overall budget, sometimes we say we can't do it all this year. But we can look at it as a capital expense and we can start to put money away and build toward that 3 years, 5 years, whatever it might be, and we can plan for it appropriately. So those are the kinds of conversations we'd like to be able to have.
Sure.
So we can work together on a good plan.
Sure.
And it might take multiple years to accomplish something
I understand
you guys
that.
see as an important item. So I think we're, another 1 or 2 steps away of iterations to get to something that we can maybe actually build a budget around as we're looking at your total budget on
Yes.
both the tax side and the enterprise fund side, just so we can talk to you about, you still get to make certain decisions, but we want to be able to have that dialogue to say, of these important items, the county thinks it can fund this much. Do you guys have room within your decision-making ability financially to help offset some of those costs? If so, great. If not, why not? And then we can just work through it together and come up with what the plan looks like. But
It'll create a 5-year plan so that you know this year is the year that we need to do this project.
I think as we move forward on that strategic plan, that you'll get updates on that, no problem. And hopefully that you looking at it will see that there's some issues you probably are gonna have to help with.
There are, I think the disconnect between the two is, if I remember, we were told we can't be the ones that dictate. We have to be the ones to require you to give it, but we cannot be the ones to tell you what to give.
Sure.
And so with that, understand that means you're gonna come and we're gonna say, well, why is this not here? But that doesn't mean it's wrong, it's just that that's the.
It's helpful to know exactly what you want.
Can I?
Because, like you said, government moves slow, and it's every 2 weeks that we meet. And so when I have to ask, what do you want? And I get no reply, it's like, okay, now I have to try and figure something out. And before we know it, we're 2 months or better down the road. And yeah.
And it's a volunteer board, so, and that's not lost on us either, that it's not your guys' job, but it's a volunteer board, which is why we want to make sure when we're identifying volunteers that they're people that are contributing and that want to contribute to what it is from the different areas that impact you guys. Can I ask that, I need some numbers on the staffing person that you're looking for, so that I can look at that aspect with.
Okay.
What that overall cost would be to that position. And I'm going to say this to Mark or anybody, because having heard what you're talking about in terms of staffing, I think that the position doesn't need to be as just sponsor focused, but it can be, there's a couple of job descriptions that can pull a lot of the different tasks that you're needing into a job. And then I will give you a comment. I actually emailed Bill to say, did he approve a review? His review of your document is a legal review of, doesn't meet a legal requirement of a document. But he said he asked that the Fair Board not act on anything without approval of the Board of Commissioners. And so we have to address that aspect of things. I appreciate you guys coming to have the conversation. Hopefully we knock down the barrier walls, and that as the board sees the difference that each of us offer, because we are not the same background of people, that you play us to our strengths and allow us to help move forward, because I am confident that what you guys have been frustrated, and I can only really go here because these guys are new, what was experienced in the past isn't this board, but you have to let us help and not think that we're in opposition, but versus just looking at what's the best way to move forward. And I don't think our county has had the diversity of background that you have that actually could help the fair more. I just think we have to be willing to talk a little bit more. Your equipment items, my question, do you guys look at surplus across the state for some of these items you have listed?
Yes, I have, and
Do you have a capital improvement account to purchase large items like that in your budget?
we just added, well, we are planning to add, I just was working with Jessica on this, to add lines in the budget for capital improvements, because I think before we didn't have anything like that. Or are you talking on the enterprise side?
I'm guessing you guys don't have a capital account that allows you to
No,
save
not-
up for stuff, for a project. That would allow you to bear interest. Okay, so we need to look at that also. That's been one of my comments to a lot of the budgets that have to start forecasting, since you can't save up. You can create an account that allows to say, this account is going to be used for this, and that's what we're banking the money for. You'll see tomorrow's business meeting, Road and Bridge is going to bring forward a memorandum with a resolution to create an account, and they're going to bank interest on their money out of our sweep account specifically for their project. And so that's part of what identifying your full plan does, is lets us say, what are the priorities? I'm going to be big on the safety aspect of some of the things that you guys identify need to have insurance clearance, because that's that crossover between the county. And for me, if you guys have issues that are safety, there needs to be written documentation that we've gone through, because we're self-insured, and the things that we have to do, checks and balances to get covered if we exceed our SIR, means that we may not have done that without the communication. So I would like that to be a priority for Christian, to look at what you guys identify after you have your meeting tonight. If you identify true safety concerns, that we identify those to see what we need to do before you have that fair. On that specific comment on the swine wash station. Because on some things, we have to make the hard decision and say we have to close it if we can't fix it, or we have to figure out if we can fix it quickly before we have people out there. We had to do that with a dock. We were just letting people walk across it, and then someone said, by the way, you can fall through the boards. We're not supposed to keep walking, because then insurance will not cover us when you do fall through the board. So if that can be a high priority thought process when you guys are doing these, and there's a safety issue, that we think of what insurance covers and doesn't cover. Our SIR is $500,000. That's a lot. And when you're talking about people, that's even more money than the county could afford to have as a risk. So Christian will come out there. You guys have anybody going out there tomorrow or Wednesday? Are you good on Thursday, if he comes out on Thursday to look at that?
Oh, I can.
Chair, can we confirm action items? I have a 4 o'clock with another department that I need to get to, so I just wanted to confirm what our actions items were before.
This was their report. They're going to
Right.
go through and identify their priority, and then they'll get that back to us, she said.
I just want to go back through it with.
I make my
Yep.
phone calls to my commissioners first.
No, I just want to go back through it with make sure we're all on the same page. That was my understanding as well, that
Oh,
the
okay.
Fair Board's planning to make some updates, and they'll send that back out.
And that,
I became aware, because I was ignorant, that there was already financial information going over monthly to the treasurer clerk's office. And so we can figure out how to coordinate that now, so the commissioners are aware, so we can close the loop on the overall financial picture a little bit better, hopefully.
it's not this, you're wanting more information than what comes over, so it's similar to like your EMS kind of report back.
Okay.
So because they're
We'll
not
need more
fully
detail
used, you
then.
need more details.
Gotcha.
So before he walks out, it will be, I will work with Mark on fire hydrant staffing and marketing. Parking lot is going to be Commissioner, he's only getting one, which seems unfair, but that would be Dom Key. Main exhibit, swine wash, and main events building are going to be Commissioner Korn as sounding boards to help. And then to develop your guys' kind of go-away for your meeting today is, when you're looking at your major action items, a little bit more on the plan and the costs associated with those plans and priority, and with safety concerns, especially since public will be coming. And then I will look at accounts with you guys.
So I'd say whoever on the Fair Board
Oh, yeah.
wants to coordinate with any of the commissioners, please just reach out to us then, so that we know who it is that's going to be our primary point of contact. Like for the parking lot, whoever wants to reach out to me, if you choose to do so, then I'll just be happy to coordinate with that person. Figure that out.
So before we leave, every time we have open meeting, I always make sure we say, anybody want a public comment? You guys
I do
good?
have to step out.
Nobody? All right. Anything else further?
I don't think so.
All right, it is 4 o'clock and this meeting is adjourned then. You can't even have public comment.
I just